Before we start, can we request everyone to mute their microphones and turn off their cameras? So, as we proceed, if you want to share anything with us, please put your names in the chat box so that when we open the call for feedback and suggestions, then the moderators can invite you to talk. So, with that, let us start. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. I am Neha Khandekar from A3. And I'm being joined by Bibi Suchetna from IISc. We welcome you to the first meeting of the Indian Youth Water Network. The overall agenda for today's call is to get to know each other and hear each other out on how we would like to use this platform, collaborate and engage with each other as we proceed forward. So let us begin and we'll take you down the memory lane a bit. So some of us got together last year in September in a conference in Bangalore. It was one of those large, rather elusive, fancy conferences, the times where we were feeling thrilled to participate, but also a tad bit out of place. So we got together after one of the plenaries one afternoon to share our collective miseries as we were dozing off in one of those large air-conditioned halls, to rant about how drowsy and disassociated we were feeling with the session. As we sipped cups of coffee and tea and felt rather inspired, the conversation escalated, and one of our mentors had planted the seed in our heads of having a platform in India where young water professionals like us come together from different disciplines and can engage with each other, share our ideas, work together in a truly multidisciplinary way. So that topic came up, and we started having a conversation. Engaged not only with from a technical modeling perspective, but also with people working on the grassroots and knowledge from other disciplines in water sector. After we got back and moved on with our lives, we thankfully did not forget that conversation. Some of us got on our first call, which led to several other rounds of calls, meetings, conversations over tea, coffee, meeting our colleagues. Bit by bit, sometimes with the help of very encouraging mentors, sometimes using our own network, we started spreading the word about this initiative. Soon, bit by bit, we started inviting our friends, friends of friends, colleagues who shared the common vision as us, and slowly we gathered momentum. Presently, we have about 100 Indian members from over 30 different institutes across India and overseas who have joined us for this platform. Most of you did write back to us indicating your interests, expectations, and suggestions. And some of us did compile that in the form of a report, which was shared with the ideation document. So worry not, the effort to fill that long Google form did not go waste after all. These were also incorporated while drafting the overall goals, vision, and the roadmap for the first year. We know that you all have done your homework before coming for this call, but just to give everyone benefit of doubt and to brush up, we will quickly take you through the concept note of the network that was shared with you in the last communication email. This is also being projected on your screen right now as we speak. And I would like to invite Bihu, my colleague from IISc, to briefly go through it once and take you through it. Bihu, over to you.
Thanks, Neha. I'm Bihu Suchetna from IISc Bangalore. So as Neha mentioned, our overarching goal was to build a platform to approach water issues from diverse perspectives and ultimately enable better understanding and smarter solutions to real-world problems in water management and governance. We believe our concept note, which you may already have gone through by now, is a very strong reflection of our commitment to building a novel platform as well as a robust pathway towards an inclusive water discourse. Let me briefly walk you through how we went about scripting our concept note. So, while formulating our goals, we decided to focus on knowledge sharing, increasing multidisciplinary communication on existing and emerging water issues, and facilitating networking and professional development opportunities. To this end, some of our short term goals include building a website and social media page for our network, conducting joint webinars to discuss the execution of large interdisciplinary projects, collating water data from reliable sources, etc. Also, we want our network members to meet once a year at an annual workshop where we can take stock and brainstorm. We have deliberately tried to move beyond hierarchies and hyperboles and build an open, honest, inclusive platform for all young water professionals. We look forward to suggestions from network members on ways to strengthen our community and have a lasting impact. So, with that background in mind, we would like to invite four of the members of our advisory group: Professor Balaji from IIT Madras, Professor Jinia Mukherjee from IIT Kharagpur, Mr. KJ Joy from SOPCOM, and Dr. Veena Srinivasan from ATRI. We are really thankful for their continued support and encouragement, and we are excited to hear about their thoughts and suggestions for our network. In the interest of time, we request each speaker to please stick to 5 minutes only. We will start with our first speaker, Professor Balaji from IIT Madras. I hope he has joined us now. His bio will be shared in the chat box. Professor Balaji, if you are on the call, will you please turn on your video, and over to you.
Neha, I just need couple of minutes. Can you just please proceed with the next speaker? I will just come back and join in a few minutes, please. Thank you.
All right, so sure. So we would like to invite our next speaker in that case, Professor Jinia Mukherjee from IIT Kharagpur. Her bio would be shared in the chat as well. So over to you, ma'am. Thanks for joining. Hi.
Yeah, hello. So am I audible and visible as well?
Yes, yes.
All right. So good evening, and I feel very excited as I have also written an email to the India Youth Water Network. Actually, I don't know who is mentioning it, but I now I think I'll be addressing Neha, right? Will that be okay if I address Neha when I reply to this India Youth Water Network email address?
Ma'am, it's a group of some of the members. So
all right. So whom do I address? It will not be right to write that dear India Youth Water Network, right?
you can just address us as the steering group for now. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So yes. So I'm very thankful and also very grateful. For this opportunity, and I have gone through the ideation document, the concept note, and it really, I think it's very comprehensive. And I also have shared some of my comments, some brief comments. So and circulated the concept note to you, I think a few minutes back. So it would be good, like if you can take a look. And very quickly, I can also, discuss those comments right now. So one thing, as I understand, is that you are talking about a multidisciplinary or a transdisciplinary perspective or framework on water, which I think is very, very important. And also how to transcend from this transdisciplinary perspective to, craft transsectoral exchanges. So what is happening is that in academia, a lot of interesting works and cutting edge, path breaking frameworks and perspectives are coming up since the last few years. For this activism, academia, and other sectors intersection. So it becomes very important that how academicians can actually speak to the activists and to policymakers and vice versa. So it is very important. Transdisciplinary is important, but at the same time, transsectoral exchanges are also important. And transsectoral exchanges should also inform the water disciplines. This is what I think is very, very important, and to a great extent is missing within the Indian or within the South Asian context. So from this perspective, I think this particular network really, really makes a lot of sense. And I think as you mentioned in the concept note, that our networks and some of our ongoing projects and all these things will be able to share. and we'll be able to also discuss these with all of you, with the members, with the steering committee, and also other mentors. So with this, I think if we can kind of, in the first year, but the only thing is that my worry is that the concept note also seems to be a little robust. So we also need to kind of focus on particular components and make it a little more feasible. So it has to be smart, it has to be like specific, measurable, actionable, and relevant and time bound. So that needs to be done. And one good thing, I think, like all of us would be sharing the literature, sharing scholarships. So it would be very good that we'll be able to exchange different perceptions and perspectives. So I think this would be very, very meaningful. And also a couple of things which we are doing, we'll be sharing this with you all. And this can be a collaborative network. For example, I have a course on which is called Water Society Sustainability, which is an NPTEL course, and where I have kind of tried to combine these theoretical frameworks and also inform the theories with the empirical insights that I've gained from some of my ongoing projects. So what would be important is that I'll be able to share and discuss, all these things with you. And to a great extent, I'll be able to enrich my perspectives from the feedbacks and comments that I'll get from this particular network. And also we have this socio-hydrology conference, which will be organized in Delft 2021. And also, as we have more than a year now, if participants or members together, we can give one or two panels. So a lot of things are there in the pipeline. And I think 5 minutes, I don't want to cover everything in these 5 minutes, but maybe I will write an email to all of you, and so that we can keep exchanging. And finally, the last thing which I would like to say is that there is also one INSEE special, so this journal, right, Ecology, Economy and Society, which is now being published by INSEE. So this issue, which will come out in July, so there will be a special section, which is where, the name of the section is New Epistemologies of Water in India. And so I'm one of the guest editors with Kuntala Lahiridar. So again, I'll be sharing it out to you. And I very much think that I will be, or we will be extremely benefited by exchanging with each other about all these things, all these kind of works, the projects, the research, the publications that we are doing. So thank you very much. This much for now.
Thank you very much, Katrina. That was really helpful. And as we proceed, some of the members are taking down the notes. So we would share the minutes with everyone so that we can actually work on the suggestions that you gave just now. So with that, now I would like to invite the next speaker, KJ Joy sir. Over to you, sir. You can turn on your camera now, and you have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Neha, and everybody else who are behind this interesting initiative called Indian Youth Water Network. I think it's a very much needed initiative because many of us have been feeling that the oldies are still ruling the roost. So probably the youngsters need to be there. Not only in the area of research and knowledge production, but at least even many other areas of, especially the policy and other type of things where you find that youngsters are still missing. So I think, and I expect that this network to throw up the new leadership to the water sector in India. I think, and I'm hopeful of that, and I'm happy that in one form or the other, I get a chance to associate with this initiative and things. So that way, so thanks a lot for adding me to, I don't know, whatever this advisory committee means, but anyway, to be part of this initiative and, whatever inputs one can provide, one will do. So I went through your note and I think it's quite comprehensive and reads very well. So maybe because just we have about 4-5 minutes, so I just quickly give a couple of suggestions to this, which I've been feeling quite strongly in the last 5-10 years of working in the water sector. One thing is that if any work which we do, whether it is in the area of knowledge production, and I mean, I completely agree with the 4 or 5 goals which you have set for yourself. So I was just trying to say that I think there is a need to strengthen the relationship between academics and activists. And since I come from a more of an activist background in my early part of my work in the water sector, and also moved a little bit into civil society, and also within that a bit of a knowledge area and things. I feel that if our initiative to become much more transformative in nature, I think two constituents which I find which can be effective is basically those who are into knowledge production and those who are on the ground, basically in the social movements around water. I'm not talking about typically NGOs here, but I think this alliance, if we can make it stronger through that, and so if we can keep that as one of the goals, and I think it's a very mutually beneficial type of alliance going to be. I think the researchers also will ask questions which are much more socially, ecologically relevant, especially to the toiling people of this country, and things, and how do you ground those questions, and even the methodology and type of thing. And even activists are also looking for new answers. I think many of us who came into this area of work from the 80s, we thought we knew everything. But I think things are changing fast. New questions are coming up, new issues are coming up in the water sector. I mean, climate crisis and things are just one set of issues which are there. So there is a lot of uncertainty, and actors are also looking for new knowledge, new ways of dealing with issues. And through these alliances, we can also raise new demands by the social movements and things. There are complexities which are coming up. We all say that water is a wicked problem, and wicked problems do not have easy, straightforward, direct answers. It is a much more of an iterative process. So I think if we can strengthen, if we can keep this as one of our areas of engagement, saying that we need to seriously spend as young researchers and professionals with activist groups. And there are a whole lot of things happening in this area today. There are people, movements working on equity, equitable access to water, livelihood issues, dams issues, river rejuvenation, various other type of things, environmental flow. I mean, there are a whole lot of spectrum of issues which we can get engaged with and things. So I think, so maybe in a year, taking off some time, all of us, and spending about a couple of weeks, a month, working with these movements on things, I think it will be quite an interesting thing. And I think I would seriously say that we need to build and strengthen this network of both activists and young researchers working together. It will give us new insights and perspectives. So that is my first take on this. The second issue is that through this process, are we going to produce knowledge which is uncomfortable? Otherwise, today we know that with the neoliberal overall political economy in the country, all type of researchers are churning out all type of materials. I think we need a critical knowledge to come into which is embedded in some normative concerns. So I'm not saying that a network in its beginning here need to spell out clearly what are the normative underpinnings of our initiative, what are our concerns. I think somewhere down the line, maybe this one probably we need a little more clarity, so that when we involve in policy and type of thing, or take positions on some of the policy initiatives on brought by the state and things, I think our own normative concerns we need to sharpen a little more, because otherwise we can come with two different type of knowledges. I mean, there are examples of that. Now, for example, when the Mullaperiyar Dam issue came up, the whole dam safety, there were two sets of knowledge which was created. One is that the dam is safe, people can live there, you do a bit of a tinkering with the structure and things will be safe. But another set of knowledge saying the dam is really unsafe. So there is a whole sort of uncertainty among the knowledge itself and things. So how do we then pitch our knowledge? I think there our own concerns, I think, will matter in our own knowledge production and things. So that is a second suggestion I would have. Third thing which I thought was that probably, I don't know whether it is too premature to say, is that the whole question of policy responses from the network. Today what happens is that whenever there's any policy initiatives, new drafts coming out, whether it is policies or new law or bills or other type of thing coming out, I think we need a much more of a collective voice to respond to that. And whether Indian Youth Water Network can also do that function to some extent. So we may not get into all the things, but at least what we can do. And one concrete example is that many of you would know that there's a new national water policy being drafted. The work has started about 3-4 months back. I'm also a member of that committee. There are other friends in the committee like Himanshu Kulkarni, Mihir Shah is heading that thing. Now, I don't know whether it is premature to suggest now, and I don't want to put an additional burden on all of you, saying that can we not make a presentation or say that, okay, this is what the young researchers or professionals think, what should be the direction of the new water policy, because new policies don't come all the time. It comes in once in 10 years or something. So and because of the COVID type of thing, the deadline of the committee's thing has been extended up to August. So is that possible that some of you can take some initiative and draft some type of a concern, saying that this is the broad suggestions you have, this. So I thought probably that may be one area where you can consolidate some of our already existing knowledge and our own concerns and thinking and things. If it is possible, then I think probably that may be one avenue where we can intervene in the policy discourse. There are many other things happening in the country today under the garb of COVID and COVID lockdowns. There are many other things being pushed, whether it is weakening the environment impact assessment process. There's a new guidelines notification draft for discussion thing. So there are some of these things I think which we need to we could engage with and things. So I think probably these are the 2-3 suggestions I have to at the moment to make, and I'm not saying that you should accept all these things uncritically, but whatever is doable, I think we could think of doing it. And the type of networks which I'm part of, whether it is social movements in Maharashtra or South Maharashtra, where there are interesting things are happening on equity. This, if any of you would like to get associated, spend some time with that movement, I could organize that. The Water Conflict Forum itself is a large network. There are many people working with that network, so you could associate with that whenever you have time or concerns on some of those issues, or even other things. So, so thanks a lot for giving me an opportunity to be part of this process, and wish all the best. And as I said, to reiterate that we look forward to this network to provide the next generation of leadership in this whole effort. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Your suggestion on attempting to, could you, yeah. So your suggestion on especially attempting to draft something and give you suggestions on the policy was really exciting. I think we'd really take a note of it and think about it and get back to you. Besides other suggestions that you gave. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
So now if you could please mute your microphone and turn off your camera. Thank you. Next speaker, Dr. Veena Srinivasan from Matri. Hi, Veena.
Hi. Hi. Firstly, let me start by saying congratulations. I think you guys have done a really, really incredible job and an incredible service to the country in kind of giving a small part of your time and coming together. So I have to say, personally, this makes me feel very hopeful, because for a long, long time, people have complained that, and this is particularly even on the academic side, I would complain that I only meet Indian water scholars in foreign conferences, and I don't ever meet them in the Indian conference. So I'm very happy that there was, albeit an international water conference last year where many of you met. But also, I'm very glad that you guys then came together, put all this effort in creating this network, and then also thank you for inviting me to be a part of it. It's very, very exciting. So first, let me start by saying today in India, there's very little overlap on one hand between practitioners and academia, and also very little overlap between the science and engineering community on one hand and the policy and practice community and the social science community on the other hand. And I feel like there's almost only a very handful of people that move comfortably back and forth between these communities. And because of that, a lot of the very rich insights that happen on science, or very rich insights that are gained in the field, are not actually being exchanged. And so there's a huge fragmentation of the knowledge and the thinking in the water sector. And coming together at this time is very, very important, because we really need we really need that rich engagement and exchange between these different communities. So I think, firstly, Joy, it was lovely to hear. I was happy, therefore, that you invited Joy to be part of the network. Joy is also the founding member of the Water Conflicts Forum, which wasn't on his bio, but he didn't mention it, so I thought I would mention that, which is another large network of 300 grassroots organizations. And as he said, he's also part of the, the policy dialogues at the national level and often at state levels and so on. So I think that firstly, I would say that having some of these conversations with some of the people like Joy, Himanshu, Mihir, some of these people who've been around for a long time is very important, because some of these issues of social justice and how the perspectives of farmers on the ground, what their perspectives really are, is being lost in some of the academic community. And as Joy says, there's a lot of research happening, but not a lot of research that necessarily reflects what the needs of people on the ground are. And so I would say that really one opportunity, and what Joy said, I want to reinforce, it could apply to A3, it could apply to Sopicom, but really to see if you can spend a week in the field volunteering in some way, because we need a lot of you young people, particularly those who have technical skills. And I'm saying that because social science research in India has always been very field based. There's lots of excellent academic research. But in the natural science engineering side, a lot of the work is still simulation modeling and sitting and remote sensing increasingly. And therefore, that gap is actually widening because of that. And so I feel that just spending a field, sometimes we get interns and I literally make them spend the first week reading Wikipedia because they don't have any clue about any of the concepts we're talking about. And then I'm like, please go to the field and see these things, because otherwise we don't have any conversation to have. So I really would encourage this real rich participation from a variety of disciplines, and not to shy away from challenging conversations, but really try to look at it as a way of stretching and stretching your intellectual capacity and growing. It's very, very hard to do. It's so much easier for all of us to just be stuck in our silos, just do science, just do social science, just do engineering. But the bridging of the different gaps is the hardest thing to do. And I really hope that this network of bringing people together would actually be used, rather than everybody then breaking off and saying, you write a paper on the science, you write a paper on the social science, and not actually talking to each other. So really kind of foster that idea of breaking those barriers down. What a network like this can really do, which I feel the older generation is missing. So Joy and I were just on another 2-hour call on the Water Conflicts Forum. And I felt that, and I commented on that as well. I think one of the things that a lot of young people bring to today is communication and the new tools and media of communication. So a lot of the stuff that is happening with older generations in the scientific community is not making it to wider audiences, because we're not using the tools of today. We're not using social media effectively. We're not making videos. We're not doing, whatever the other things that need to be done, blogging, tweeting, all of that. And so I really hope that all of you will come together and be able to take some of these insights, but really amplify it and put it out there. Because we need good quality research that's vetted, not just any research, but we need that then to be amplified and communicated. The second thing that I think that young people can do is to bring some of the new digital tools into the field, because I remember to Joy a few months ago, based on something that a funder had asked us to do, on what could be done and what needed to be done in the field with bringing some of these tools like Google Earth, Open Data Kit, QGIS, some of these techniques. And it emerged that a lot of the field-based organizations still use very, very outdated techniques, but therefore they're very inefficient. They really struggle in being able to. And let's understand that the people on the field are working with very few resources, and often in some cases the people that the questions that they're trying to ask about, is this dam really worthwhile, or is this hydroelectric power project safe, or whatever it is, they are actually not able to, because they're not empowered with the same set of tools and the same data sets, the same analytical abilities that some of the proponents of some projects. And we've seen a lot of terribly done policy and projects over the last 50 years. And so really to think about how do we democratize information, democratize data, make science available to everyone, that is something that I feel that you guys are more empowered to do than anybody else. So I hope that would be, some of the kinds of discussions that you have as well. And so I think coming together is great. I like everything that you had. As Jinia already said, it's quite ambitious. So I would encourage you also to think about prioritization and seeing one or two things that you can definitely achieve. One thing that I've told Neha and others over over this last period is to look at the student student conference on conservation science, which is held in Bangalore every year, as a possible model. It doesn't have to be the only thing, but it's a very, very, very inspiring conference. It's completely run by students. They bring very good speakers, inspiring speakers every year. It's very, very high energy, lots of great exchanges between the youth that in that case work in the area of ecology and conservation science. Lots of exciting ideas in terms of techniques, networks, all of which serves them throughout their life. But also they put in recent years lots of interesting mentoring opportunities. One year they put, for example, dinners where they had young people with more seasoned scholars. They could sign up to have dinner with a seasoned scholar, or some of it was like workshops on having somebody come and teach a particular technique. It was all kinds of stuff, and it was completely driven by what the young people were excited, what the popular demand was. And I think that is also something, because I think doing stuff online is great. And then I know this is not a sensible thing to say in a COVID world, but maybe next year in 2021, you can think about having a conference and then making that an annual event, so that you actually all get to meet each other once a year and then carry on with an offline digital set of activities. Okay, I'll end there. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Tina. Thanks for pointing us to the right questions. And we definitely want to stick to certain fewer activities and pick out of the list, but definitely want to do produce outputs at the end of the first year. So with that, last but not the least, would like to invite Professor Balaji now to share his suggestions with us. Over to you, sir.
Yes. Am I audible, Neha?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Very good evening to all of you, and hello to Veena Joy as well as Dr. Jeena Mukherjee. One thing that immediately jumps out to me is when you say this is going to be a youth network. The spectrum of people, the people who are interested in water, but then their level of expertise in water is going to be quite different. You will have probably and hopefully people who are pursuing their undergraduate program all the way up to PhD, and maybe some even in their postdoc. So you are going to have a very broad spectrum of people. Hopefully, they would be interested and genuinely interested to and motivated to be part of this network. When I read through some of your the notes, what I feel is, I mean, this is something that is genuinely driven, but what is the benefit that anybody who joins this network would probably get? Definitely, there is going to be a lot of networking opportunities and things like that. There is no doubt. But are there anything more than that we envision as part of this network? That's something that for you to think about. The reason is it will ensure that we keep the team motivated, we keep the youth motivated, to look forward to many different things. It could be related to some skill development. It could be related to career opportunities. It could be related to better defining the research problem in a better way. There are multiple things that can be brought into this. So currently, what would be some of these few triggers that would actually keep the group intact, and then the group interested in pursuing a lot of the activities through this network. That's something that I think needs some more thought. And another one is, I think a lot of these activities would also need the funding support and things like that. Definitely, some of us can certainly help you host some of the conferences, and then probably we can try to bring in some sponsorships and things like that. But beyond that, I think we also need to think and see what are all the other avenues through which some of the funding that is probably needed, at least at the bare minimum, to support some of these activities. I think in this post-COVID world, I think a lot of this the webinars and other things are happening in in a much more efficient way. I felt that I've been interacting a lot more efficiently online than face-to-face meetings. So I think I see that in your the paper also that you have webinars as something that has been presented. But in addition to that, I think you also can have a skill development workshop. There could be somebody who can be talking about GIS, or somebody could be sharing their statistics knowledge, or somebody could give a workshop on water policies and water laws and things like. So I think we might need to have a constant set of activities that we keep on engaging the youth, not only as a target group, but then the youth that you're going to have hopefully should have a very broad spectrum of people, as I told earlier, from their undergraduate all the way to the PDF. So I think we might need to come up with a sufficient set of activities that would keep them constantly engaged and constantly interested and constantly invested in the that make them constantly invested in the activities of the youth network. So that's something that I think I would want to see how we would be able to do that, so that there is a lot more engagement that probably happens due to this network, actually, right? So let me stop it right there. As everybody has expressed earlier, this is something that is very much needed. uh, but then there is also, we need to look and see how this network can be sustained, and the level of participation can be maintained throughout, for several years to come. And every year, we want to see that this youth network keeps on growing. So towards that, we need to basically see how we can actually keep them engaged, keep interested, so keep attracting a lot more people to congregate around this network, right? So with that, I think I'll stop it, and I wish you all the very best, all the best to everyone who has volunteered and who volunteered to be part of this network and to lead this network. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Uh, the 2-3 points that you did mention, which is one, what can we learn when we come together? Can we think of building skill sets and organize some exercises around that? Point well taken. And I would like to flag that some of us, when we were having these initial rounds of conversations with you all, then one of you did point to us that it would be good if we keep this network more about the content and less about the titles or the positions, so that we can really focus on doing the work. So on that note, thank you very much to all the advisory members who joined us today and shared their feedback with us. You are welcome to stay now for the next session, which would be moderated by our colleague Nakul from A3. We are opening the call now for inviting members to give their feedback and suggestions one by one. So over to you, Nakul.
Hi, can you all hear me? Yeah.
Yes, Nakul. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Nakul, and I'm joined by with me is Tarini, who is on the phone because she wasn't able to get online. So we were asking for people to put their names so that if they have any suggestions or comments that they could put in. I hope everybody has taken a brief glance at the note, and if anybody has something to say about that specifically, or even generally about the network, or even any questions to the people who have put the note together, we'd be happy to let you in. Please, there's no putting your hand up in this sort of a platform. So if you can put your name in the chat box, that would be really nice. Or if you'd like to unmute and speak, that would also be okay.
Hi, Nakul. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, so it's nice to have a number of people that we see. I mean, there are more than about 37 odd people that we have today. So it's nice to have all of you. Some names are familiar to me, but some aren't, and I think that's indicative of how wide this network is going to be, and how hopefully diverse this network is going to be. If people do have questions, please let us know. We'd also like to hear you guys from by email. If you want to be very brief. I think I see Ayushi would like to think.
Yeah. So can you hear me? I'm just trying to figure out whether everybody can hear me or not.
We can hear you, Ayushi.
Yeah. So I am very glad to be part of this network. But a question that I have is, I am not a core water scientist or water researcher, or person who's very familiar with water related problems, and I'm more into animal research or turtle research, and I interact with water bodies because I'm researching on a aquatic animal. So I just wanted to know what how can I contribute to this network, and what exactly, because I'm still trying to wrap my head around the activities and the collaborations between all the people who are there in the list. So I'm just trying to figure out what can be my role, and what does the network expect of me as a participant. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. Because my area of expertise, or like, I'm not a core water person, so many things that was discussed so far in the group, it just I was not able to completely grasp the entire thing. So yeah, I mean, if we can generalize that thing for, I'm sure other people who are here, other participants who are there in the network must be from different that's the whole point of interdisciplinary this network. But I'm just trying to understand how we can bridge that gap between all the people who are there, and try to come up on the same ground where we can take the discussion forward, and maybe have something like a role design, maybe, like, or yeah, I mean, I hope I'm making a valid point.
Absolutely, and because I know Ayushi, I know that she's had an experience being in the SECS, the conference that Veena was talking about, and this is something that we've all felt. Some of us who have attended that particular conference also, that it is a really inspiring sort of platform to be in, and one may not immediately sort of know what exactly their expertise can translate into, say, a role in the network itself. But I think that's the real uh, the push, that's a real thing that is pushing all of us to come together on such a platform. Is we'd like to hear from people like Ayushi, who's an ecologist, and see what sort of worldviews they have about the water sector in general, the kind of experiences that they've had in turtle conservation, for example, and look at problem-based sort of work where we can collaboratively work on certain issues. Having you on board is really great. So, I mean, I hope I've answered your question to some extent.
Yeah.
Um, we are noting all of this down just to let all of you know, and and we'll get back to all of you once we've put all the comments together. Ashwat Singh had asked if we could talk a little about the systematic literature review in the concept note, and this was also a result of the constant sort of banging our heads together as to what this network could do. And one of the claims that we had done earlier on while writing this was how are we looking at or how are we saying that there is a lot more of work being done in certain sectors and maybe many are being ignored. So we started looking at hydrology and maybe economics and how they sort of policy work. So we wanted to try and see if that actually can be in some sense proven. So one way of doing that was in some sense looking at a systematic literature review of the work around all the water policy work that has happened, say, in a particular period of time. So this was an open sort of an idea, and we look forward to comments from all the participants to see how we can possibly have could come together and do something like that, right? An SLR with something that we could do by sitting in our at our desks. So, but getting the sort of drive to keep looking at a variety of literatures and start reading them also. So I hope that answers your question, Ashwat. And I'd like to bring Srishti Bajpai. She had a question.
Hello everyone, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, thanks for this network, and thanks for opening it up for other people to join in. Just to briefly introduce that I am an activist researcher based in Pune, and I work with an organization called Kalpavriksha. It's an environment action group. I just wanted to I wanted to add another aspect that I thought would be relevant for this group is this emerging work on rights of rivers. And I don't know how many of you are aware of, but I'm sure since you're working on water issues, you would be aware of recent judgments that Uttarakhand High Court had passed in 2017, and of course other international laws and policies that have been in this direction of granting rights to river and rest of nature in general. I think it would be an interesting area for this network to explore, especially in South Asian context, because there is a need of a lot of creative imagination in terms of how one can accord rights to nature, which in general has not been in the imagination of activists, researchers, legal lawyers. I mean, a whole spectrum of these things. And there was a dialogue in early March where, of course, Joy and many other senior activists working on water issues were there. And what emerged from that dialogue was that there is a need of more understanding at South Asian level, especially in context of how do we imagine giving rights to rivers that can that also goes beyond boundaries, because it's actually a transboundary issues. So I think since we are also there have been many suggestions being made on how to look at water issues in a much more holistic manner. I think one of the themes like this can actually can enable us to think and imagine and do, in fact, considerable amount of research and work in according these rights. And there are enormous networks across the world that are working on this. So if some of the people are interested, it would be great, because there are a lot of things that have emerged from this dialogue that need to be taken forward. And I'm happy to include people who are interested and want to take this work forward and collaborate with you all on taking all of this thinking forward. And if you need more information, of course, that can be sent around. So yeah, that was my one point that I wanted to add to this discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Srishti. Ashwath was going to ask a follow-up question. Ashwath, please go ahead.
Thanks, Nakul. First of all, it's amazing all to hear you all, especially the advisory committee and the people who introduced. And I'm sorry for turning on my camera earlier. My fault. I wanted to ask whether one of the concrete things that can come out of this meeting is, the steering committee who's there, if you can design the systematic literature review in the way that you deem fit, and then you can give us opportunities to explore certain areas, then that would be something that I'd really be interested in personally. And I think a lot of people would be, if like people have said that people have tried to do research and you can only get secondary data, or you need to talk to people from villages. So it would be great if there's a publication that collects all of the knowledge, or a series of publications that collect all of the knowledge that's available out there about India, so that we can see the gaps. And if you make that like the first thing that we guys do, that would be something very exciting.
Thanks, Ashwath. I think that's exactly where we were at when we were discussing this, and your suggestion is well taken, and we'll work on that, and hopefully come up with something a little more concrete soon on how we can go ahead with a study like that. I think many of us would be really interested in taking part in something like that. Yes, thank you. So the floor is open if anybody else wants to go ahead and pitch in, ask questions. So I have Tarini here. Tarini, would you like to say something? Sorry, Tarini? Yeah. Is this audible? Tarini, go ahead. Tarini, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Tarini. I'm an assistant professor at the General Global School of Environment and Sustainability, and I'm really happy to be a part of this network. And over the discussions that I've had with Neha and the others, and a couple of calls I've attended, the plans that they have formulated and that all of us will participate in and take further for the next year and for the next 5 years are pretty groundbreaking in many ways. They're going to be able to bring people from different sectors together. I myself, I'm a lawyer by training, and an environmental lawyer, and I'm teaching environmental law. So through this network, industry, law, policy, science professionals, people who are not even directly maybe connected with the water sector, but all of us have our different skills and different interests, and all of us are passionate about this area. We'll all be able to work together and come together. So break a lot of these divides between these sectors. And in this way, I believe a lot of change can take place. And we can develop action points and plan for the next 1 year and 5 years. And that's something which Neha and the others will share more about, and in which all of us can get involved, which is the other great thing about this network, that there's a lot of scope for involvement from all of us, according to our different areas of interest and skills. So this is a great endeavor, and I look forward to it progressing further.
All right. Thanks, Tarini. I hope this was audible, and we'll be taking notes, like I've said before. So
So I just want to, if perhaps Neha and you and we can tell us a little more about the concrete plans that we have for the next year or 5 years that might be interesting, and the thematic groups and how people can participate, how they can sign up. That might be interesting to hear.
yes, thanks. So Neha, if it looks like we don't have any more questions or comments, so we'd like to go ahead with the closing final few words. Okay, so just hold on, folks. Sunil Kumar has a few things to say. Sunil, please go ahead. Sunil, can you hear me? You'll have to unmute yourself if you're. We can't hear from Sunil, so please let us know when you're able to speak.
So I think, Sunil, can you please type your suggestion on the chat box? Yeah, that's okay. So Sunil actually works with ACIWRM, which is a think tank um, in government of Karnataka, um, which actively does research on water resources. And I see suggestions by other members. Craig, would you like to speak of your initiative, maybe, if you want to? Okay, I think. Okay, fair enough. Please let us know your suggestions. Keep them coming over emails. I think we have got really good set of activities to follow up on already um, on the in the subsequent for the subsequent days. Yeah, so we are taking a note of your suggestions. Please feel free also to email to us. So, would any of the authors of the concept note like to add anything? Karthik, Lakshmikant, Apurva, anyone? Saivina, Bhavna?
So Tarun has a question. Tarun,
Yeah.
so Tarun's asking, how does the network plan to network with India Rivers Network, India Water Portal, and other similar networks? So yeah, that's like Joy said. I think that's something that we are looking forward to, and as Genia also was speaking about how maybe some of us can come together and um, uh, write for uh, the NC journal that she was talking about. So there are ways in which I think collaborate with these networks, and the good thing is that we are aware of them, and we sort of know what they have been doing all this time. So I think that there are ways in which we can collaborate and work together with other networks that Tarun has mentioned, and that's a great suggestion also, other than being a question. Thanks, Tarun. So Apurva is asking, going forward, how could interested people join this network? I think that's a way of us trying to advertise this, and we'd like to. We haven't thought about it, but we welcome suggestions. We have reached several organizations and institutes across the globe over a very small period of time, and I think that says quite a bit about the interests that people have in joining such a network. So we hope to keep at it, keep talking about it. Neha's been doing it for a very long time, so I hope we'll continue this in ways where people can get interested, and we'll try and reach hopefully to places where there are much more younger crowds and more interested crowds as well. Thanks, Apurva.
Yeah, I think that because we have such exciting set of activities to start with, if we set up our social media pages, but also um, flag these activities and invite for volunteers, then that way, hopefully, soon we will grow as a community. Um, Along with, of course, inviting friends of friends, and engaging with several other existing networks like India Water Portal or India Rivers Forum, etc.
So, Bhavna, things to say. Bhavna, go ahead.
Hi everyone. So this is Bhavna and I'm doing a PhD in Dundee University. And I just wanted to say that I'm really excited and like really overwhelmed that how much knowledge we all have, and experiences that we can share with each other. And we are not aware of it yet, but like it will be so good to learn from each other. And that's the main objective of this platform, to share knowledge and experiences from our projects, and we'll be continuing to ask for your suggestions that how we can continue sharing this knowledge through social media, through our websites, through maybe blogs, or you can suggest us how you want to share this knowledge. So yeah, I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thanks, Bhavna. I think those are really useful suggestions, and we have taken them on board.
Hi, Nakul. Can I say something? Renan.
Rinan, go ahead.
Yeah. So no, I was going through everything, and because I think we still have like some time left, can we talk about maybe some ideas or some work that we could probably take on, like in say the next 2-3 months, like or like a set of small immediate goals, if anybody has anything in mind, maybe like how Joy mentioned about the water policy thing, or if there is anything which we think that we can do in the nearest of the near future, like once COVID things get sorted. So does anybody have like any suggestions on those lines?
Yeah, none. There's what Joy had mentioned about looking at the water policy draft could be something that a bunch of us would be interested in looking at. So if I'm sure we can possibly run a small email thread amongst ourselves to see what kind of ideas that people have, and what do they want to see in that particular draft. So Joy says that the notes and inputs need to come over the next month or so. So this is the immediate
Yeah.
future, right? So the next few weeks we can try and put something up as soon as possible and send it over.
Yeah, I mean, because even it would be simply a good exercise to get everybody on board and see how we think. right? So I think it would be a good starting ice-breaking kind of exercise if you could do something immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good suggestion. So, Jinya is saying that there can be some more brainstorming about the major domains components on which the steering committee will work upon. And that comment is also well taken. We'll put that down and as something that we'll be looking at uh, in as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think we really have some really interesting activities to pursue. We can just, as you suggested, Nakul, put them down in the email and invite um, our colleagues here to join in the activities. Okay, I think we had one more suggestion. Tarun. Hi, Tarun. You want
So
to talk?
Tarun, yeah. So Tarun's mic seems to not be working. So he's yeah. So he's asking how about collating the info about all ongoing projects that members are currently working on. And
Hi, hi, Nakul. Sorry to interrupt. Am I audible?
yes, Tarun, I can hear you.
Yeah. So I wanted to. So I would be starting a new project on ecosystem services on the Ganga Brahmaputra Delta this year sometime, and probably a lot of other people are also might be already working or maybe starting new projects this year. Would be nice to know what other people are doing this year. So maybe we can collate some information for this network, or maybe even have a side note on things what we are doing in the field, because my work would be mostly field based, and I would be crossing over into domains like socio-hydrology and participatory GIS, all those things. And I'm an ecologist by training, so maybe someone can benefit out of such information. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely, and we're really glad to see a number of ecologists already on board, and this seems to be a really exciting field of study for a lot of us who are working on water and hydrology, but sometimes have to really cross several hurdles to actually get the ecological part right. And we really welcome your comments, and we'd like to hear more from you about what you've been doing.
Yeah, so my the basic idea was to collate a database where people or members can update that I'm currently working on such and such project or something like that.
I think it
Yes.
will be worthwhile to prepare, profile of all the members in this network. And maybe when we have a website, we can put all the profiles of the members on there, so it's easily accessible to everyone. So that's a really good suggestion, and we should be working on that.
Hi, Nakul. Uh,
Yes, go
Rehan.
ahead.
Yeah, so I think we can just flag that we have a list of participants, that a list of the members list, that could act as your first level of understanding what kind of work people are doing. Maybe we can go through the list and see uh, who is working on what. At least at the broad level, people have given their entries, right? So maybe from there, then we can pick up and see further what people want to, or we can make that list itself a little more effective.
Yeah, so right now it's just a crude Google spreadsheet, but hopefully we'll develop that into something much more presentable. But therein, there's one sheet which has all the list of the members. Anav, is it possible to project that on the screen, maybe? And the other sheet, in the other sheet, we had just put the initial set of activities that we could think of initially. Yeah, there you go. Thanks, Anav. So this is the long list with all the members who signed up or showed interest. And Anav, can you move to the second sheet? Yeah. So here we had just put certain activities that we initially thought we could do. Obviously, this is not an exhaustive list. We could add the suggestions that came up during the meeting and only stick to maybe 2-3 activities. The idea is to have a year-long plan so that we can generate some outputs as we move and we meet again in the next annual meeting. And oh yes, one of the ideas was to organize an annual meeting in which we were thinking of having 2 of these large sessions, which are mentioned in the concept note as well. So you all are requested to go through it and get back to us if you like the idea, and if anyone would like to coordinate. We have just put the examples of the topics right now against these activities. So yeah, that's another thing to flag. I think with that we're left with 10 more minutes. So any closing remarks from anyone, Joy, Genia, or anyone else? And then we can hand it over to Renan for closing the meeting. Thank you. Thanks, Anup.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, you are. Thank you. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
just quickly, I wanted to mention that what I just tried to put in the chat box. So when I was just going through the concept note, and also I looked into the diagram, which talks about, which provides a lot of details about the steering committees. And also the various domains. So I think, I mean, I saw that there is a kind of, I will not say disbalance, but I would still say that, there is a whole lot of emphasis on water laws and policies, and also the technical part of it, in fact, socio-hydrology. But I was also thinking that if, political ecology and mesology, hydrosocial, these components should also get into this. And I very much understand that this is, this is the first time, and lot of brainstorming would go on. But then I was just thinking that socio-hydrology is very important. But at the same time, one of the major limitations in socio-hydrology is that, the hydrology still, they kind of just incorporate the social variables. But at the same time, in hydrosocial, I think it's more about how water and society make and remake each other across space and times. So what happens is that the more, ethnography, anthropology, and political ecology methodologies, to a great extent, play a very crucial role, in hydrosociality. So I was just thinking that whether, all these domains which are now emerging and making a whole lot of sense, especially within South Asian context, because, for example, now researchers are also extremely interested to know, for example, the social lives of sediments, along with exploring sediments from the ecology or from the geomorphology perspective. I was just thinking that whether, all these ideas, which is very crucial, and especially, if we also take into consideration the epistemology of particulars, in tropical deltaic sites, estuarine sites, for example, there are so many shores and there are river islands, and the livelihoods of people, resilience, everything to a great extent being shaped by the, emergence, submergence, re-emergence, and re-submergence of these river islands, which determine and shape their livelihoods. And, in turn, these also get determined and shaped by, these livelihood trajectories. So it is very important to kind of incorporate and include these real life stories, or these, lived realities in the understanding. So I was just thinking that whether in this national water policy that Joy sir is talking about, and when we, if we can also, kind of craft a major contribution in terms of when we are thinking about water research and education. I also very much think that our own spatial context, our cultural context, that also should, kind of make its presence in a very prominent way. Yeah.
Nakul, can I just have a quick 2-3 suggestions?
Please go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, so on this national water policy front, as I put it on the chat box, I think the inputs need to come, because we already started drafting some of the critical sections. So if your inputs can come, let's say within a month or something, that would be good. I could, maybe communicate with some of you to take this forward. And probably by August, I think we would get that first draft out. So in this committee, we followed a different methodology. Instead of preparing a drafting a first draft and then putting it for comments and suggestions, because once the drafting is done, there is a inherent issues in terms of reworking on it and things. So here this time we wanted to get all the inputs from different uh, sets of people and then draft the thing so that it can be a much broader process. So I would like if a small group of you can work on it, and maybe I could also send you some feel of what are the broad thrust areas of the policy which you want to make a real difference and things. So maybe we could take that forward, and who is taking the lead from your network. So if we can do that, that would be good. The second, I also liked what Tarun said about, I think one way of we getting effective is one is strengthening our own network, and also how do we contribute to other networks. I think most of the networks, if you can strengthen that network on those issues which those networks take, whether it is right of river, whether it's inter-river we conflicts, or where are the other networks. So where the whole presence of young researchers and also can make it increase and make it part of that will be an interesting thing. The third thing, after listening to some of you, I was thinking that since this is a very heterogeneous group, that is what Professor Balaji also said. I think we have researchers who are from typical research institutions as well as from other civil society organizations where research is only part of it. They don't do that. So I think there are different levels of that. Second, also, I realize there are also, to use a term called non-water people in the network. So probably whether we could think of some basic, capacity building on water science, policy issues, and type of thing, so that we become a little more on the same page. So probably that you could think of maybe some way of doing that can take place through the network for our own internal members. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks very much. I think these were wonderful suggestions, and we'll get in touch with you from from the ID, the Youth Network ID, and try and see how best we can contribute and how quickly we can contribute to the policy draft. And really interesting to also hear that these capacity building programs could something be done in the near future as well. Thanks for that. So, if we, is anybody else, does anybody else want to contribute? Please go ahead.
I think we are short of time. We have only 3 minutes
Okay.
left to end the call. So maybe we can invite Renan and Saivina and Anav now to wrap
Sure.
up.
Sure. Over to them. Thanks, everyone.
So, hello everyone, I'm Anav, and thanks a lot for your enthusiastic participation, and to the advisory members for having the patience to listen to us till the very end, and for sharing your suggestions. With this, we come to the end of a really exciting discussion, but it is certainly not the end, but rather the beginning of conversations we wish to have and continue having in the future. And yeah, for those of us who are hesitant to talk now, please write to us on IYWN@gmail.com. The three of us, Anavora, um, Rinansha, and Savina, we've all been diligently noting down all your suggestions, and we'll compile them and send them across by the end of this month to finalize the set of activities, deliberations, and roles that we can take on so we can embark on this exciting journey together for the next year. So let's keep meeting and sharing. We'll be in touch with you all. Thank you, and talk soon.
I have a few concluding points and reminders. I Renan here. So I mean it's just reiterations of what we wanted you all to do. Yeah, just yeah. So the one thing would be because the sheet that Neha just shared with you, the Google sheet, I think we can probably share it once again. So if you could kindly indicate your interests in the activities, or propose some activities that you could coordinate, or you want to be or you want to be a part of, and maybe you can see which members you would like to mm, which members you would like to speak to about the work you're doing and other things. Secondly, I think the Neha and Saivina have mentioned the Slack group on the for IYWN. So it would be great if you could sign up for your thematics there. And if you think something is largely missing, maybe you could write and then suggest the same to us. And last be a call for volunteers at various scales. So we would want you to actively volunteer. Thank you.